point of this tier list is just kind of my experience with a little bit of experience from my patrons and my community and sound tests that we looked at together of keyboards to buy in 2022 as of today, 2022 December. You can probably still buy it in 2023. I'm focusing on things that either have dropped in market value, at market value, so you can kind of buy it, or are accessible in stock at any time. So things like Mode are very accessible, or Geon just releasing frogs, rolling stock drops is good. And sprinkled in are some higher tier boards like the Type 65 Unicorn F1. If there's going to be more stocks or they have multiple drops, if it's just 1 GB one time and that's it, I don't include it in this list. Or if it kind of fell out of favor like the Vega, it kind of comes down. It's really nonsensical. I'm just being petty at this point. S, A, B, C, D, E. All right, so we have these cells and I'll have the images up. Unicorn, I'll put this S tier because she's doing restocks and stuff, right? She's gonna keep stocking them. Easily S tier because now anyone can get Unicorn. It's gonna take a minute, but at least you didn't have to fight for one like I did first come first serve. Vega, I'm gonna put this at B tier because it's not even that popular anymore because of the other affordable options. I feel like you can get Vega for GB or less. Keychron V series, I can't put it above Vega because the Keychron V series are great, but the V1 I had was trim out. It sounded really good because it's plastic case. It sounds fuller than a Tofu because with an aluminum case, a cheap aluminum case, I've always said this, you're gonna have like distracting sounds like ping and hollowness are gonna exist in a cheap aluminum case, but not necessarily a cheap injection molded case, especially if the case has silicone, foam, whatever. Yeah, Vega is pretty redundant, especially if it like costs you more than the retail. So Keychron V series, put OG80 here. I would take the Keychron V series over OG80 because it's using screw and stabilizer. Okay, so it has everything you need. So Keychron V series goes over OG80 because of screw and stabs. So we got Moon Tower. Moon Tower is a collector item and it's not really even accessible. I would recommend a freaking Vega over the Moon Tower because they can at least get it for cheap. So put in B because it's still a good board. It's just, bro, especially the PC clones of the Corn. So put this under Vega. I would be more happy with the Vega knowing that I can get it for way cheaper than the Moon Tower. So we got Zoom TKL. I think the Zoom TKL, it doesn't do anything wrong. So I think it's gonna lead in the C tier, but we talked about it in the community and it's just kind of boring. It's inoffensive. Like it's better in a spec wise over the Keychron V series and OG80 and everything, but it's just, it's a keyboard. Oh yeah, fuck, it was an ANSI bottom at launch. If you have the discipline to get in, grab a Zoom TKL and get out, good, solid. You'll be golden. But likely you're gonna get in there and you're gonna be like, fuck, I'm bored of this. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna buy a Zoom TKL and you're just gonna gift it to somebody. So consider that a loss. It's gonna be $200 gone. Frog Mini. For the price and accessibility, I think if Frog Mini beats Vega, I would call Frog Mini is an A. But the weakness of the Frog Mini that I haven't really talked about, the Frog Mini, like because it's using that strip feet, rubber feet, it's so close to the table that sounds very thuddy. Despite the thuddiness, that spacebar is banger for that price and accessibility. Now it's taken redeem Wingmo for 20 seconds. Thank you. I like the Frog Mini sound because it's overall pretty good. It's not the best sound, but when you can buy anytime for that price for the winkless and the winky and the color and everything, and then the plate option with the hot swap with the Goda layout, it doesn't have a stupid ass ANSI 4 right mod bottom, split shift step cap. In terms of value for what you can buy today and the sound you get out of it, pretty good. Dude, I'm just so bored of Vega. The Frog TKL spacebar is like a little bit too close to the bottom. So if you use the screw-in stabilizer, it's gonna have this weird, it's gonna kind of hit the case a bit. And with the snap-in, it honestly did sound better once we fucking snipped up the legs. When we snipped up the legs, it sounded better, but also it was gonna come out. So filing it down to give it some more clearance, or just using like a case foam, really improved it. And force break really helps that board. But the Frog Mini spacebar out of the box is better than the Frog TKL. So we got Bakaneko. I think Bakaneko is going to be an S tier keyboard still. It's going to go ahead of the Corn because it's so accessible, so moddable. You can use it as a stepping stone to learn how to one-off keyboards, design keyboards. And specifically, we're saying Bakaneko 60. Bakaneko 65 just doesn't slap the same. It's just like Gummy O-Ring and 65 is really hard to nail. The Bakunego 60 is like the basic best value keyboard. I think the upgrade pick would be the Frog Mini. So I have the Tomo in here. I think the Tomo's gonna fall behind the Vega because the Tomo sound is a top mount sound. If you had a gun to my head, I would keep the Vega over the Tomo because it's cheaper. Yeah, they're gonna keep doing restocks of the unicorn. That's the plan. So my rarity of my corn is gonna keep going down. So the Type 65 Plus has been raved by the community. So I need to hear it. This is pretty solid. Now how can you buy it? I can probably put this high, but because wait, how much does it cost? $393 for a B stock? That's pretty good because it has the brass weight, right? So this has an internal weight then. I don't love internal weights, but I think this board's a pretty good package. So I guess if I'm gonna put that up there, did I get the sound test of this Event 65? Let's look at the sound test. Oh, we did, so it was pretty good. Let me listen to it one more time. Yeah, I don't know what that ping is, but something, they hit something. The plate is palm. The thing is, they're not wearing a ring, and I would imagine they hit the ring or something. So what the that was a metallic sound. There's nothing that would cause a palm plate to make that sound. That's super weird. I don't like the Ven look. Like straight up. I'm gonna tell you, like I've made this joke before. I don't like keyboards that look like this. Nah. Alright, Sonnet. I've heard great things about Sonnet. Let's sit down and listen to a Sonnet sound test. It didn't sound like a top mount sound, which is unfortunate. But overall, I think it's an inoffensive sound, good aesthetics, you have a lot of customization, and they stock their parts all the time. So for that reason, I'm gonna put that up here. It's gonna come ahead of, I think, accessibility, a B tier or A tier. I feel like it would top out A tier or be behind Vega, just because the Vega isn't like a rolling stock. Modes in stock is undefeated because you can get that shit anytime. They're not like the best looking or best sounding keyboards, but you can you don't have to buy 5 PCBs just in case your shit dies. You can like at least hold out until they say, oh, we're not gonna restock X, Y, Z anymore. If Frog is A, the Sonnet is A, I would say so. I'd take the Frog over the Sonnet though, because Geon stock stuff too. Yeah, the Bakunego 60 sound is basically a unicorn. It just needs a little bit of modding. So unicorn is like, because of the brass weight of the unicorn, or just a weight in general, you get a full sound out of it. CNC aluminum instead of cast aluminum. But with the Bakunego, a little bit of tape or something, so like paper towel on the bottom or something, then you can get a pretty good sound out of it. And then you're thinking, okay, well, you only paid how much for it? $135 with PCB? And you're like, wait, what the fuck? You can get aluminum keyboards at $200, $300 and they'll still require case foam or PCB foam. And a Bakunego 60 with paper towel is gonna sound poppier than those. That's kind of sick. The weak point of the Bakunego 60 though is this. The hot swap option has an ANSI bottom, which hurts. Yeah, so we got Sonnet in the A tier. Forever 65. I feel like Forever is up there too. I've heard a lot of good things about the Forever because here's the funny thing. You get like the OG good boards, like the Ironware 65 was goated and clouded for a while. So was the Bauer. So was the Chimera. But there are these other sleeper boards that come in, like the Forever 65, like the Type 65 Plus, and they don't have like the cult following of those other boards, but they sound very good in their own right. But because they're not like clouded in any way, people forget about them. And I think Forever is one of those. What's next? Tiger 80 Lite. I'm gonna put that behind the Bakunego 60 because it's plastic. Bakunego 60 is at least aluminum. I put that shit as. That's just me. Spacebar, that spacebar is nut. That spacebar beating out other aluminum TKLs is nut. For accessibility and value, it's gonna beat the unicorn of the Type 65. Oh, I didn't rank the Forever 65. Let's do Forever behind. Let's just put it up here. It's expensive though, so it's gonna be behind. But because it's not hyped as much, it's probably buyable. Retro, you own it. Would you put that A or S? We'll let you decide. I haven't owned it. I'm just like basing off of y'all's sound test. For retail price A, for below retail, yeah, like everything's gonna be below retail now. I don't if you buy a used keyboard today above retail, rethink your life. What keyboard is so important to you that you have to pay market value for it? And you cannot, just absolutely cannot take an alternative that's kind of similar. Arc 60 is not cheap. How much is Arc 60 shipped? Does it come with 2 PCBs? Yeah, it comes with 2 PCBs, so I think it makes sense. Because you get your aluminum plate mounting as well as plateless. So I think it's a solid banger. I think I like it more than the Frog Mini in terms of value. So we're gonna put it up here. Well, actually, it's gonna go behind because right now, until they can confirm that they figure out their PCB issues, there's been a few PCB issues with the Arc 60. Like the PCB doesn't always register in VIA, and you have to do like this or that for it to be detected, and you have to flash specific firmware. So they're having a little bit of issues with their PCB. So for that reason, for now, until they fix that, it's gonna be below. But the package overall, the mounting style is really cool for what it is. It's just not like any other gasket mount keyboard. They have this like swappable mid piece to get plateless and gasket. I do wish the gasket was a little more flexible. It's pretty stiff and it sounds that way as well. All right, Brutal 65 V2. Top mount? Why does it have that hollow sound? It has like a dry sound. Not necessarily hollow, but I'm listening to the spacebar. One-sided gasket? Okay. Yeah, he achieved the top mount sound. That's what I'm hearing. Fucking, it's a pain in the ass to deal with hidden screws. For that price, should have brass weights. What's the price? Ooh, 350 with no wait, all aluminum 350. It wasn't that tip 65. Was the other board that looked like a concrete wheel stop? Ven. I didn't even put Ven out here. So this has a rear weight 420. I mean, that's probably on par with what I expect. The brass weight being the difference of 50 to 100 bucks. Okay, it has a full suite of plates, so I think that's pretty good. I would probably put that into A. Candy Keys will keep the stock, so yeah, I'll put that into A. I guess I'll put Ven above Vega. The Unicorn's gonna keep dropping because she already did her second drop, so I think it's kind of viable in my eyes at this point. Frog TKL, I'll put that over Sonnet. Arc 60. Let's do these three real quick. The Midway, from what I've seen, the release was scuffed, the colors were scuffed, especially with the dark navy. They charge people a hella for gaskets. Everyone's selling their Midway. It's almost too expensive, and it's only in stock right now because no one wants it. It's a higher tier than Sonnet if you get it under market price, under retail price. But now we're going to asterisk specific scenario. You go back to Tiger 80 Lite. The Tiger 80 Lite's just gonna slap the shit out of anything that sounds okay. So yeah, you have a plastic keyboard, but you also have like probably A tier sound and above. It's just kind of like C tier hand feel, right? Because it's plastic and not heavy. Alright, we got the Wooting 60 HE. I'm gonna put that like bottom C, but if you're like a really good gamer, it's gonna be great for you. I'm bad, but I also want to have the features. We got F18X. Fuck. It was dropping in value too. I feel like F1, because it's dropping in value, and the market value, is gonna beat out the Corn. What do you think, chat? Accessibility is coming up. Moontyre is not accessible. I'm gonna say F1 is better than the Corn. If you can do, if you start hovering your wrist. If you don't hover your wrist and you like the low front height, you'll hate it. I hate the F1. Moontower's never coming back, Trump. Corn just had another drop and she's gonna keep doing the drops. The F1 sound is just like the F1 with the correct plate, because apparently like the V1 plate's better than the V2 or something like that. You gotta have the right aluminum plate. But if you have the right aluminum plate, gangster. If you do plateless, it's not gonna sound as good as the other options. And the Freebird TKL, they just kind of pooch on that one. Keys for all needs some help. Alright, Freebird TKL, yeah, KFA, I don't know what the hell's going on with them. QK65, fuck. Chat, what do you think? I don't want to make this decision. Yeah, for me, this, even with the silicone dampener, some switches sounded hollow. I was like, this is kind of weak. It isn't as hype as people made it out to be. I'm gonna say QK65 is representative of QK60. Did someone say F? Nah, dude, I think it's above C. I wouldn't say it's S because it has pretty clear weaknesses. It's like a new tofu for beginners. Yeah, I think so. Put it ahead of A. Price and accessibility is pretty good. So what we got now? We got the Kohaku. I think it's best in sound, but for accessibility, as of today, you can't really get it. And the market price is, it'll be the next year thing. So I don't think you should go on here. Kohaku's S tier sound, but not for accessibility. Buyability, no. I feel like we need a TKO on here. A KFEC. I would say specifically PC, but that's super viable because it's super low key and it's just good. The only problem with it is it's a little flat, right? So if you want some kind of angle, it's a little flat. Fine. If it's just talking about the units, then we'll say KFEC, including all of them, because there's a bunch of drops for aluminum. I'm just kidding. Powder Kiko is not that bad. Buyability is probably bad. We're just gonna leave here for lulz. All right, Jane ME, like these are gonna restock, right? So I feel like I'm gonna put them behind Frog because I just hate them. Not because they're bad. Well, kind of. 910 was pretty meh. The Jane was a Jane. The 910 sounds worse than the Jane. I just hate the fucking magnet shit of both MEs. Like that magnet stuff sucks. Absolutely horrid. What, you have like an endgame keyboard and you stick a plastic knife in there to lift an aluminum weight off of very strong magnets. How is that in any way primo, luxury, anything? It feels scuffed as hell. Yeah, the Owlab Melatrix QK series boards they're great for accessibility and buyability. I guess Midway is fine because you can probably get it cheap. I don't know if it's accessible because everyone's yeeting it. Just like how Tomo is on here. Because it's yeeted it. Actually, Tomo doesn't have issues. So I think it's behind Tomo. Alright, so let's review what we came up with today. In the S tier, I think the Bakeneko 60 is just undefeated. Tiger 80 Lite is a kind of TKL option that is also very cheap and hard to beat. The F18X is honestly still holding its own. You just gotta have the V1 aluminum plate in F18X. F2 was supposed to be the kind of international GB and upgrade to it. It looks better, but it's stiffer and quieter. So I still lean towards the F1. Unicorn, they've done the R1 drop, the R2.1 drop, and they've done another drop. And I think she's gonna do more. So the accessibility is coming. It's already proven to be more than one run. The Type 65 Plus still in stock today, and it's very high tier sound. Forever 65 also high tier sound, but for the aftermarket price, if it's below GB, good. If it's at GB price or above, it's kind of expensive at 700. Playlist 7V, that's not really accessible anymore, but 7V V2 is coming. So if we do a 2023 and the V2 is happening, then yeah, we can consider that. It's dropped in value also, so you can kind of get it, but other than the fact that NK dropped a bunch of whatever stock without PCB in their gacha boxes, it was really hard to get. The Q series aren't that good. They're accessible, they're not that good. I don't think I would recommend them. I would honestly rather recommend Equinix, so I don't have to deal with lubing their switches or building their board. I guess there's full all-in-ones, but I don't really like the fact that they're just regurgitating their boards. They're just Control-C, Control-V to different layouts. So now we have the A tier. QK65 is leading. We talked about this, how every keyboard's judged against it. The Brother 65 V2 is a little bit more expensive. I wish it had a brass weight, but it has a pretty good sound and a pretty good design. It's AI3 design, so you know, pretty good. Frog Mini, I like that over the Frog TKL because the spacebar sounds better. It's just because it's so low to the ground, it sounds kind of so low to the table. It sounds kind of thuddy. But the Frog TKL is kind of the TKL standard. So if you're buying a TKL, you got to compare it. Like, would I rather just get a Frog TKL, or should I go a little bit more expensive and go for like Vertex Angle, which doesn't sound as good, or you go for the Matrix keyboards, which are hard to get. You go for the Jane MEs, which are being flipped right now. It's hard to justify all that effort when you can find a Frog pretty easily. And then we talked about the Jane. We have the Jane ME, 910 ME. 910 ME sounds pretty bad. The Jane ME sounds pretty close to the original Jane. It's a slightly different design, but I really hate the MEs because of the magnetic plate or the magnetic weight. It's also an aluminum weight, so it's not that heavy. It just has a shiny PVD weight in the back, the Toblerone. The Sonnet and the Arc 6C are accessible. Sonnet is from Mode, right? Mode is Sonnet. Make sure. Yeah, Mode from Sonnet, accessible, sounds decent. I didn't love the spacebar from the sound test, but I think overall it's a package anyone can buy easily without having to fight for it. The RX60 had a few issues, which is why it's pretty low on here. I would push the RX60 up, but the PCB issues from the first run are kind of concerning. Well, it does good. Yeah, their supply of keyboards is undefeated. In the B tier, we have the Ven, which I didn't really hear about. It's, in my opinion, kind of expensive, but it's more accessible, in my opinion, than the Vega. Ven and Vega are probably similar. Moon Tower is in a lower tier because Moon Tower is done forever. The Vega is old right now, so it's really hard to justify, but it's a great all-in-one package, just relying on the foam. The Tomo is expensive, TGR, but not really. But it's a top-mount sound, which is something we don't see very often. The Midway 60 had a few issues, especially with the color. I think a lot of the yeeting is due to the Dark Navy being teal. The original Dark Navy that was scuffed was teal. The fixed Dark Navy was just less teal, but still teal. Not Night Navy at all. Tofu 60 is accessible all the time, but you can't get the E yellow, so that sucks. There's no point in getting Tofu 60 if you don't have the P yellow. Come on, man. You need the P yellow. The Zoom TKL is sub 200 TKL, but it's lower tier because it's just boring. It has Bluetooth and stuff, but it's just straight up boring. It's aluminum, so like if you want aluminum, go for that instead of Tiger Elite. Keycon V series is very accessible, very cheap, and honestly pretty good without having to mod it too much. OG80 is just an in-stock pre-built that doesn't require modding. I just kind of picked one. The Equinix boards are all kind of in the same category. A little more expensive than what I would want to buy, but it's just all in one. You grab it, you gift it. If they like the aesthetic of it, they're gonna be golden. Your friends will not care about Co-Star stabs. The Wooting 60HE I just threw in here because I looked at it recently and it's pretty cool. But for most people, it's not gonna make a difference. The Melgeek stuff is expensive, man. I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend Equinix more because the Equinix sounds way better. Not way better, but a little bit better than the Melgeek stuff. As to basically the boards on this list are the ones that are pretty interesting. Some of them are dropped in there just for contrast. Number one pick out of the entire list. I mean, the first one, okay, 60 TKL 65. Is there more accessible 65? I think I'm gonna have to give it to Brutal 60 or QK65. I think I'll have to give it to QK65. So 60, 65 TKL. Brutal is always in stock, but like Brutal's just not as exciting. QK65 has that look. QK65 limited run. Didn't they do a few runs though? Even by the unicorn? Yeah, they just had another drop, and they're gonna have more.